An old man lies weakly in the snow, clinging to the memory of his civilized origins. A young girl discovers him, her expression filled with pity as she offers a bowl of food. Now inside, he accepts her kindness, learning the villagers value him for the soap he makes. The girl departs, leaving a lone trail of footprints in the vast, snowy landscape. His mind fixates on a single defining thought. He is a man from Earth. Coughing violently, he reveals a shocking truth. He's been trapped in this world for 50 long years. His memory flashes back to a company trip, a car full of terrified colleagues on their way to a workshop. Their ordinary day turned to chaos as a sudden landslide engulfed their vehicle. He awoke not in a hospital, but in a fantasy realm filled with monstrous beasts like a three-tailed fox and a two-headed snake. Towering above them were godlike figures, men who defied gravity and ruled the skies. He recognized this new world as the setting of the Xianxia novels he used to read. He believed his colleagues were destined for extraordinary lives, far beyond the locals. He alone, however, was the unfortunate exception to this twist of fate. The divine beings who appeared were immediately captivated by his colleagues' mythical talents. A majestic dragon descended from the stormy sky, taking each of his gifted co-workers away. Only he and his director, Kim, remained to navigate the unfamiliar streets of this new world. The two of them, two ordinary men, were completely abandoned. They clung to the hope of discovering their own powers, but found they were utterly normal. Powerless and ignorant, their only option for survival was grueling manual labor. 6 months later, a desperate director Kim gambled all his money on a cheap martial arts book from the streets. To his shock, Director Kim was a natural prodigy, mastering the cheap manual in just 3 months. He quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a powerful warrior for the nation before seeking his own path. And just like everyone else, Director Kim left the protagonist completely behind. For a moment, he wondered if he too possessed some hidden special talent. But as time passed, he was forced to accept that he was tragically, hopelessly ordinary. Now, after 50 long years, he's just a frail old man succumbing to a simple illness. He coughs up blood, his only remaining pride being his origin from another world. He recalls his struggles, learning the language and building a life from nothing. His modern knowledge of soap-making became his sole source of income in this primitive world. However, even this small success couldn't change his ultimate miserable fate. His soap business was a hit, until thieves stole his recipe and their thugs kicked him out of the market. Left with nothing, he waits for death in a desolate hut, utterly rejected by this world. As he lies on his deathbed, a mysterious, shadowy figure appears before him. He grits his teeth in bloody agony, questioning what more he could have done to survive. Tears of regret fall as he laments why he, of all people, was never chosen for greatness. He questions a cruel fate that stripped him of everything, his will to live finally fading. His last thought is a desperate wish for power, believing it was the key to a better life. And with that final regret, his life ends, consumed by a brilliant flash of light. But instead of eternal rest, he suddenly gasps, his body jolting back to life. He awakens young and bewildered, finding himself in the very same suit he wore on Earth 50 years ago. He finds himself surrounded by his dazed colleagues, all waking up in an unfamiliar field. But unlike them, his eyes hold the sharp clarity of 50 years of painful memories. A smirk crosses his face as he realizes he wasn't powerless after all. His true ability, he now knows, was the ultimate power of regression. While his colleagues panic, he calmly recognizes this as the first day of their 50-year ordeal. He remembers the landslide that brought them here, an event that now feels like a lifetime ago. Though the distant past is hazy, the present moment is crystal clear. He wonders how to use his second chance when his only future knowledge is how to make soap. His thoughts are violently interrupted as his aggressive section chief grabs him by the collar. The man shoves him forcefully, restarting the cycle of conflict even in this strange new world. The other colleagues can only watch, stunned by the sudden outburst. The section chief furiously blames him for the crash, accusing him of falling asleep at the wheel. After 50 years, he barely recognizes his old title as the memories of his past life flood back. His boss, Section Chief John Myung-hoon, threatens his job, reminding him of the petty tyrant he once was. He recalls that John only became a section chief through family connections, a classic case of nepotism. Another colleague tries to intervene, but the section chief is too enraged to listen to reason. Pushing himself up, the protagonist admits he was tired, but not without cause. A memory surfaces of him being forced to work late, buried under the section chief's own assignments. With a bloody lip and a cold stare, he remembers a crucial detail. His boss was supposed to be the one driving. As the section chief continues his tantrum, the hazy events of 50 years ago become sharp and clear. He remembers how in his first life, he simply bowed and apologized, believing he was in the wrong. This habit of apologizing continued for 50 years, even as bandits robbed him blind. He recalls groveling before arrogant martial artists and corrupt officials who exploited his weakness. But after a lifetime of being pushed around, he's learned a crucial lesson about survival. His hand tightens, his knuckles white with a resolve forged over 5 decades of suffering. With a chillingly calm gaze, he addresses his section chief directly, no longer a pushover. He stands his ground, telling his boss that pointing fingers is pointless right now. The section chief explodes in fury at this unexpected defiance. Enraged, the boss lunges forward, throwing a wild punch at the protagonist. A confident smirk appears on his face. He knows he doesn't have to kneel to someone he can now handle. He effortlessly sidesteps the clumsy punch and delivers a powerful counter of his own. The other colleagues watch in stunned silence, their jaws agape at the sudden turn of events. He remembers his past life, where he was a human punching bag for countless martial artists. A sharp blow connects squarely with the section chief's jaw, sending a spray of blood into the air. He recalls being beaten by bandits for herbs, by thugs during bad harvests, and by officials over taxes. With cold precision, he continues his assault, turning his boss's face into a canvas of pain. His co-workers realize that in that world of violence, he gained a brutal expertise they can't comprehend. He knows from experience that a strike to the eyes is the most effective way to break a person's will. After taking a beating like this, he knows there are only 2 words a person can instinctively say. As he looms over his terrified boss, he hears the pathetic, mumbled apology he once knew so well. He reflects that he lacks the mythical talents or peerless martial arts of the powerful people he once knew. But he knows he possesses something far greater, the ultimate ability to rewrite his own destiny. As his colleagues question his brutality, he calmly walks away from his defeated boss. He turns back to the group, putting on a convincing show of regret for his sudden loss of temper. Internally dismissing them as temporary figures, he then offers a formal apology for the accident. A senior colleague, Director Kim, steps forward, chiding him for overreacting and demanding another apology. The protagonist's demeanor shifts as he recognizes the director, readily agreeing with the man he knows is important. He remembers that Director Kim is destined for greatness, realizing that siding with him is the key to his own success. With a glint in his eye, he formulates a new plan: secure Director Kim as a powerful ally, starting now. He turns to his fallen boss, offering a calculated apology to appease the future powerhouse. The section chief's fury reignites, but the protagonist's silent gesture cuts him off mid-curse. Unfazed, the protagonist meets his boss's rage with an icy, unreadable stare. The section chief's defiance crumbles under the protagonist's oppressive presence, his anger replaced by fear. Director Kim, ever the pragmatist, shifts focus and suggests they find a way out of the forest. The protagonist readily agrees, knowing this is the perfect opportunity to guide the director's thinking. But he quickly shatters their hopes, pointing out that their world's logic is useless in this new land. He recalls the reality of this place, a realm of immortals and beasts locked in an eternal struggle for power. He remembers the Murim, where the strong dominate the weak and life is decided by the sword. Standing before a waterfall, he reveals to the group that they are on the Ascension path. He crushes their last bit of hope, explaining that civilization as they know it simply doesn't exist here. He calmly advises Director Kim that with sunset approaching, finding a safe shelter is their top priority. The director considers this, quickly agreeing that the protagonist's logic is sound. Director Kim's focus shifts to their supplies, remembering the car is full of provisions for their trip. The protagonist knows the car is gone for good, but understands that explaining the truth would be a waste of breath. Deciding to let them learn the hard way, he suggests they split into 2 teams to cover more ground. He proposes one group search for the car, while the other finds shelter, with a plan to meet back before dark. Later that evening, a lone campfire flickers against the encroaching darkness of the unfamiliar woods. A female colleague voices her confusion, struggling to understand the impossible events that brought them here. She puzzles over how they survived a landslide in a car, only to wake up in a forest with the vehicle nowhere in sight. Gathered around the fire, the group shares some foraged food, finding a small comfort in the strange chestnut-like taste. The protagonist casually offers the food he gathered, reassuring his colleague there's plenty for everyone. Director Kim happily munches on the food, praising the protagonist for his resourcefulness and dependable nature. The director subtly reminds everyone of the protagonist's hard work, contrasting it with the now useless section chief. A female colleague chimes in, agreeing with the director's assessment of the protagonist's diligence. The others find comfort in the situation, comparing their predicament to a camping trip thanks to the shelter he found. He remembers how they struggled to find this cave in his past life, but outwardly dismisses his foresight as mere luck. Director Kim encourages him to take credit for his efforts, seeing through his false modesty. A knowing smirk crosses the protagonist's face as he decides to savor the fleeting peace. He knows this calm is temporary, as the coming night will shatter their brief moment of normalcy. Suddenly, his confident demeanor shatters as he falls to his knees, offering a terrified greeting to an unseen entity. A colossal, ancient wolf with glowing red eyes emerges, commenting on the protagonist's unique scent. His colleagues are bewildered by his sudden prostration, unable to see the monstrous beast before them. The illusion shatters, and the group finally sees the terrifying creature, screaming in pure horror. He desperately yells at his terrified co-workers to kneel and show deference to the forest's ruler. The beast snarls, expressing its usual disdain for humans and its violent inclinations. However, it spares them for now, acknowledging the protagonist's display of proper respect. But their safety comes at a cost, as the creature demands one of them sacrifice an arm to stay in its territory. The protagonist recalls his past life, where everyone reacted with blind panic upon seeing this same monster. That panic led to disaster, as their disrespect angered the beast and resulted in a brutal massacre. Realizing his quick thinking has already changed their fate, he notes the price is far less severe this time around. He coolly assesses the situation, realizing that one arm is a necessary sacrifice for the group's safety. He knows this sacrifice is temporary, as powerful cultivators who can heal the injury will arrive in 2 days. To sweeten the deal, he reveals he's already prepared a medicinal herb to dull the pain. Without hesitation, he volunteers himself, offering his own arm to the beast. The rest of the group watches in utter disbelief, paralyzed by his shocking decision. Pleased by his show of respect, the monstrous wolf opens its jaws to claim its prize. A wave of excruciating pain hits him as the beast violently claims its due. The beast swiftly consumes its payment, sealing the grim pact. Unable to watch the brutal spectacle, his colleagues avert their eyes in shared horror. Fighting through the agony, he immediately reaches for the medicinal herb he had set aside. Overwhelmed by agony, he desperately shoves the entire herb into his mouth. The beast licks its lips, unimpressed, and noting his offering tasted worse than expected. As the herb dulls the pain, he apologizes to the creature for his offering's poor quality. The wolf accepts the pact, granting them 7 days of safety within its divine territory. With a powerful leap, the forest's ruler vanishes, leaving a cloud of dust in its wake. His colleagues snap out of their stupor and rush to his side, shouting his name in panic. He calmly instructs everyone to return to the cave, promising to explain the situation. Once inside, he begins to recount his meeting with the beast earlier that morning. He finally reveals the name of their new world, a term that stuns them into silence. Director Kim and the others react with pure disbelief, struggling to grasp they are now in the Murim. He explains his sacrifice bought them a week of safety, but the director anxiously asks what comes next. The protagonist grimly informs them that their safety will require another, greater sacrifice. As the group recoils in fear, he succumbs to his injury, announcing he needs to rest. A strange, eye-like moon hangs in the sky, a silent testament to their alien surroundings. A colleague later confronts the section chief, reminding him of the protagonist's selfless act. The protagonist, now recovered, coldly asks who among them is willing to offer their own limbs next. The section chief argues they should exploit the protagonist's knowledge for the week he bought them. He then reveals his cruel plan, to offer the already injured protagonist as the next sacrifice. Unseen by the others, the protagonist rises with a chillingly calm expression, having heard everything. He understands their betrayal, realizing they intend to use his body parts as a weekly offering to the beast. As he overhears their plot, the protagonist quietly picks up a jagged rock, his intentions unclear. He finds the section chief's cowardly proposal to sacrifice him utterly repulsive. He reflects on his past life, confident he could end the man with just one arm and the rock in his hand. Meanwhile, the section chief continues to persuade the others, preying on their fear and desperation. The protagonist's eyes narrow as he seriously considers whether to eliminate the immediate threat. However, he ultimately decides against it. placing the stone back down with a sigh. He reasons that their minds are paralyzed by fear and that alienating Director Kim would be a mistake. Instead, he delivers a chilling warning to the section chief, reminding him of his previous punishment. He then puts on a forgiving smile, dismissing their betrayal as a product of the confusing circumstances. The sun rises on a new day, bringing with it a tense and uncertain atmosphere. He recalls another beast from his past life, a two-headed snake that only demanded a small blood offering. Spurred by guilt, the section chief steps forward this time, offering his own arm for the sacrifice. The snake recoils in disgust after a single taste, declaring the chief's blood to be utterly repulsive. The protagonist internally mocks the unhealthy lifestyle of the chief, knowing it's the reason for the beast's reaction. He then turns his attention to another colleague, ordering him by his full name to come forage for food. To entice the nervous man, he offers to teach him which plants are safe to eat in this dangerous new world. He leans in, revealing his plan to offer his other arm next week and the need for a successor to his knowledge. The colleague, completely fooled by the act, thanks him profusely for this selfless gesture. However, the protagonist's smile hides a dark secret. He knows this survival training is completely pointless. He immediately begins a harsh training regimen, berating the man for his lack of focus. He scolds his colleague for picking a deadly fruit, a fatal mistake in this new world. The terrified man scrambles to follow orders, desperately searching for the correct plants. Exhausted from the non-stop digging, the colleague collapses and begs for a moment to rest. The protagonist coldly reveals this is the same harsh treatment he once received, ordering the man to get back to work. While digging, the man unearths a massive humanoid root, staring in disbelief at his discovery. He holds up the gigantic root, stunned by its size and wondering if it's a legendary natural ginseng. The protagonist nonchalantly identifies the plant as a yellow bamboo root, a far more valuable find. He explains that the immense energy of this world causes normally small herbs to grow to incredible sizes. While useless to true cultivators, he knows this root is a priceless treasure for boosting a martial artist's chi. The overjoyed colleague spots more of the valuable plants, and the protagonist tells him to use his shirt to carry them all. The protagonist senses a disturbance in the distance and decides it's time to return. Suddenly, a cataclysmic burst of energy tears through the sky, signaling a major event. Back at the camp, the section chief and another man collapse, convulsing in unbearable pain. The rest of the group is also afflicted, clutching their heads in agony as an unseen force torments them. 3 powerful robed figures descend from above, with one claiming the uncut talent he's found. As the beings bicker over ownership, a terrified Director Kim demands to know their identities. The figures observe that only 3 of the humans have spiritual potential, deeming the others worthless. The golden-robed master gathers a crackling sphere of lightning, preparing to test one of the candidates. He unleashes the lightning upon the section chief, engulfing the man in a torrent of raw power. Impressed by the chief's latent ability, the master is interrupted by another figure who steps forward, eager for their turn. Director Kim also clutches her head, overwhelmed by the immense psychic pressure. The black-robed master unleashes a shadowy attack to test the director's potential. He cackles with glee, recognizing her rare aptitude as a ghostly yin-transforming immortal root. Suddenly, a third heavily armored master lands with earth-shattering force. He places a hand on the final candidate, marveling at his unique holy body. The armored master claims all 3 for his sect, boasting of their world-changing potential. His immense aura suffocates the candidate, who feels he has no choice but to accept. But the black-robed master interjects, trying to poach the recruit for his own dark sect. The golden-robed master counters with a tempting offer of immortality, power, and unimaginable riches. As the masters squabble, the protagonist's colleague begs them for rescue from the deadly forest. The golden-robed master opens a small, ornate vial, releasing a mystical vapor. He scorns the colleague's mortal weakness, questioning how he even survived on the path of ascension. The armored master then notices the protagonist's missing arm, realizing he sacrificed it to a beast. Acknowledging his guts, the master envelops the protagonist's wound in a blue, regenerative flame. With their chosen recruits secured, the masters ascend, declaring the path safe for the next decade. The abandoned colleague screams in terror, begging the departing figures not to leave him behind. He desperately calls out the names of his superiors as they are carried away into the night. The protagonist grimly remembers a similar event from his past where they were ignored like insects. He looks down at his perfectly restored arm, a small consolation for being abandoned. As the masters vanish like a shooting star, the colleague collapses in despair, utterly defeated. The abandoned colleague stares at the streaks of light, cluelessly wondering about their destination. The following day, a violent thunderstorm batters the unforgiving landscape. Huddled in a cave, one of the women lies on the ground, weak and coughing. Her friend desperately asks the protagonist for a cure, her voice filled with panic. He coldly suggests they wait, sarcastically implying another magical being might show up to save them. His remaining colleagues are stunned into silence by his complete lack of empathy. Just then, an elegantly robed figure silently steps into their makeshift shelter. The imposing stranger looks down on them, comparing their mortal struggles to ants caught between dragons. The startled colleague confronts the newcomer, demanding to know who he is. The man smirks, revealing his identity as the Sea Dragon King, Seo Hueol. The protagonist is stunned by the newcomer's claim of controlling the storm. He reveals the storm drew him here, then accuses the sick woman of being its source. He finds it curious that an ordinary woman could unconsciously wield such overwhelming power. The protagonist counters that his group is the one truly confused, as powerful beings keep abducting his colleagues. The Sea Dragon King throws his head back, bursting into unrestrained laughter. He calmly summarizes the situation, noting how cultivators conveniently appeared to claim those with potential. He then points out his own timely arrival, conveniently appearing before this gifted woman. Leaning in close, the king asks the protagonist if he truly knows the nature of this land. He explains they stand on the legendary Ascension path, a direct gateway to the upper realm. He foretells that in just a few months, a dimensional rift known as the Ascension Gate will open right here. The Sea Dragon King explains this event occurs every 1,000 years, drawing countless powerful beings to the Ascension path. The protagonist's colleague is confused, recalling the masters said they were recruiting for their sects. He questions how their friends could join sects that are about to leave for another realm entirely. The king condescendingly notes that such concepts are beyond the understanding of mere mortals. He reveals a magical vase, explaining cultivators can shrink and store vast objects within such tools. The king suggests the other masters have stored their entire sects inside similar items to ascend together. He boasts of having done the same, showing a vision of an undersea castle containing 1,800 dormant sea dragons. The protagonist and his colleague are left utterly speechless by the scale of this revelation. The king then turns to the sick woman, stroking her head and musing on her extraordinary potential for his clan. As the woman suddenly faints, the king catches her, while her friend rushes forward in alarm. An invisible pressure slams into the colleague, forcing him to his knees. He writhes on the ground, overwhelmed by the immense pressure from the king. The king announces his plan to turn the woman into one of his own by sharing his bloodline. He then offers a chilling piece of advice. Never casually question a high-level cultivator. The king's aura pins both the protagonist and his colleague to the cave floor. He explains that he only answered their questions out of a rare sense of generosity. As he departs, he warns them that any other cultivator would have ended their lives for their insolence. With his business concluded, the storm outside the cave intensifies dramatically. The Sea Dragon King reveals his true form, a colossal dragon ascending into the lightning-filled sky. The storm passes, leaving the protagonist to face the quiet, sunny morning with a grim realization. All his colleagues are gone. One of the last remaining colleagues struggles to comprehend the bizarre string of events. She breaks down into desperate laughter, overwhelmed by the absurdity of their situation. The protagonist approaches her, offering a quiet gesture of support. She begs him not to get taken away like the others, fearing for her own survival. With tears in her eyes, she confesses she can't make it out of the forest alone. The protagonist calmly informs her that their time together has unfortunately run out. His chilling words send her into a state of utter shock and disbelief. Just then, she collapses to the ground, clutching her head as a strange tremor shakes the area. A massive disturbance sends birds scattering from the trees, signaling an approaching threat. The protagonist calmly announces its arrival, while his last male colleague looks on, completely bewildered. An old man on a mechanical beast appears, questioning how mortals reach the Ascension path. He observes the survivors, smugly concluding they were caught in a spatial storm from the unstable gate. Floating down, the newcomer demands to know which of them emitted the massive consciousness he felt. He gleefully suspects the collapsed woman is the source of a power he mistook for a descending sage. The last male colleague steps forward to confront the man, who responds by simply tapping his staff. A powerful shockwave erupts from the ground, blasting the colleague helplessly into the air. The The protagonist lunges forward, determined to catch his falling coworker. He successfully intercepts the man, but the impact sends them both skidding violently across the clearing. The colleague, cradled in the protagonist's arms, looks back with gratitude and concern. He points in horror at the protagonist's back, which is now shredded and bloody from the impact. The old man offers to take the woman as his disciple, promising to awaken the unique power within her. Tears stream down her face as she looks back, her thoughts clearly on her remaining friends. Her hesitation annoys the old man, who scoffs at her lingering attachment to the mortal world. To prove his point, he effortlessly levitates the protagonist and his colleague, choking them with his power. The woman desperately pleads for their lives, offering to do anything he commands. He demands she sever all worldly ties, and with no other choice, she tearfully agrees. The old man releases his power, dropping the two men unceremoniously back to the ground. He then decides that simply leaving them alive isn't enough, preparing a spell to banish them completely. A swirling dimensional rift opens behind them, with the old man promising to send them to an unknown fate. As the vortex pulls them in, the protagonist makes a desperate lunge for the medicinal herbs on the ground. Their female colleague watches in horror, calling out his name as the portal swallows them whole. The chaotic sounds of a bustling marketplace suddenly fill the void. The protagonist and his colleague lie unconscious on a cold stone floor, far from the forest. He is the first to awaken, his mind foggy from the disorienting dimensional travel. Sitting up, he finds himself looking out at a street straight out of an ancient dynasty. He recalls his past life, noting that this strange arrival is a new and unexpected development. He stands, confirming the immortal's warning about the portal's random nature, yet feels a strange sense of déjà vu. A sudden, shocking realization dawns on him as he surveys his surroundings. With his back still a mess, he recognizes the Grand Pagoda of Seokyeong City, the capital of Yangguo. He has been transported back to the very city where he once lived in his previous life. The colleague admits he's completely lost, unable to process the chaotic events. Sitting together in the alley, they both wish this whole ordeal was just a nightmare. The older man tries to find a silver lining, relieved they at least escaped the monsters. The protagonist gives a cryptic look, suggesting their situation might not be as simple as it seems. He recalls his past life, where he was just a powerless herb gatherer, a stark contrast to his current self. Deciding they can't stay hidden forever, the protagonist leads them out of the alley and into the city. An expansive view reveals the sprawling ancient capital they've been transported to. As they walk the busy streets, they draw curious and suspicious stares from the locals. The colleague grows uneasy, wondering why everyone is whispering and what language they're even speaking. The protagonist casually translates, revealing the locals find their modern clothes bizarre, leaving his colleague utterly stunned. The protagonist confidently reassures his colleague, revealing he can speak the local language. The older man is momentarily relieved, though still disturbed by the protagonist's shredded back. However, the protagonist internally admits he was bluffing, as the spoken language is entirely foreign to him. He grimly recalls the 2 months of mockery he endured in his past life just to learn this very dialect. He then proposes they get new clothes, leaving his colleague baffled about how they'll possibly pay. With a plan in mind, the protagonist leads them directly to the city's grand medicine hall. Inside, an apothecary is overjoyed, marveling at the precious herbs the protagonist presents from the forest. The protagonist coolly appraises the 800-year-old roots, stating they're worth a fortune in silver. He can barely contain his shock, realizing this sum is more money than he ever possessed in his past life. Masking his surprise, he coolly urges the shopkeeper to finalize the deal, sending the old man scurrying away. The colleague stares in disbelief at the grand, traditional house the protagonist has apparently purchased for them. The protagonist confidently confirms this is their new home and promises to teach his companion the local language. Internally, however, he reveals their fortune is nearly gone after bribing officials and buying the property, leaving them with just 1 silver ingot. His colleague's concern returns as he notices the blood still seeping through the back of the protagonist's new clothes. The older man suggests they drop their formal titles, and the protagonist readily agrees to the more casual arrangement. For the first time, the older man addresses the protagonist by his name, Seo Yunhyun, sealing their new bond. As night falls over their new residence, the two survivors settle into their unfamiliar surroundings. Inside by lamplight, Yunhyun explains to his colleague that their temporary wealth came solely from selling the herbs he grabbed. He lays out their remaining supply, stressing that they need a sustainable source of income before the herbs run out. While his colleague worries, Yoon-hyun proposes a solution: use the last of their capital to start a business of their own. Eun-hyun believes their remaining funds, combined with his colleague's business acumen, are enough to secure a living. But his ambition burns brighter. He decides that merely surviving isn't enough for someone with his knowledge of the future. His thoughts turn to his companion, Director Kim, recalling the man's hidden extraordinary talent. In his past life, Kim became a martial master in months just by studying cheap street manuals. With access to better techniques, he eventually rose to become one of the most powerful figures in the martial world. A cunning idea forms as Yoon-hyun wonders what heights Kim could reach with proper training from the start. He realizes he holds the power to create the greatest swordsman the world has ever seen, decades ahead of schedule. With a sly grin, Yoon-hyun decides to ride his colleague's coattails to power, explaining that they are now in the world of Murim. He pitches his plan, suggesting they learn self-defense to protect their future business from the dangers of the martial world. The older man is thrilled by the idea but quickly deflates, questioning how they could ever learn since martial sects don't teach outsiders. With a knowing smirk, Yoon-hyun reveals he anticipated his colleague's enthusiasm, banking on his love for Murim novels. He then lays out the city's power structure, detailing the 7 major sects split between orthodox and unorthodox factions. Yoon-hyun elaborates on the 4 stars, describing the unique martial arts of each of the 4 righteous sects. In contrast, he explains the 3 demons are shrouded in mystery, known only for their dark arts and illicit dealings. After hearing the options, Kim excitedly declares his unwavering preference for the demon-slaying sect. He passionately believes that wielding a blade is the true path for any aspiring martial artist. Yoon-hyun's eyes narrow, recognizing the same ambition that made Kim the greatest swordsman in his previous life. When questioned about his source of information, Yoon-hyun smoothly lies, claiming he simply eavesdropped on a conversation. 3 months pass, and the scene shifts to the imposing entrance of a martial arts sect where guards halt their approach. Yoon-hyun addresses the guards, stating they are brothers who have traveled far to learn from the renowned demon-slaying sect. A hulking guard from the sect eyes them with deep skepticism, unimpressed by their plea. A sect official dismisses Kim's potential, bluntly stating his age makes him a poor candidate for training. Yoon-hyun smoothly tries to bribe his way in, offering a coin to speak with a superior about basic training. The sheer scale of the demon-slaying sect's headquarters reveals the immense power they're trying to join. Now inside, a senior member questions their motives for wanting to learn martial arts. Yoon-hyun reveals his true hand, presenting a chest overflowing with silver as a generous donation for the best training. Swayed by the fortune, the official smugly agrees to let one of them join as an external disciple. However, he adds that only one can join with no special treatment, leaving Kim outraged at the paltry offer. Kim's fury boils over as he prepares to confront the official for swindling them. But Yoon-hyun calmly intervenes, accepting the deal and declaring that his companion will be the one to train. The official dismissively instructs Kim to join the other disciples later, walking off with their fortune. Kim questions the decision, worried that only he is learning martial arts after they paid so much. Eun-hyun brushes off the concern, claiming he's unathletic and will support Kim by starting a business instead. Moved by Yoon-hyun's faith in him, Kim's anger melts away into a tearful determination to succeed. Despite his renewed spirit, Kim still doubts his own potential due to his age, but Yoon-hyun offers unwavering encouragement. With their path set, Kim gratefully accepts his new role as he gazes at the immense sect grounds. 7 months fly by, and the sect holds a grand competition in its main training yard. A high-ranking sect master watches in disbelief, his rage causing him to shatter the armrest of his chair. The entire demon-slaying sect is in an uproar after an unknown outsider single-handedly defeated all their best disciples. That outsider is revealed to be Kim, who has not just learned but truly mastered the sect's sword arts in record time. A warrior's true strength comes not just from learning techniques but from making them their own. But climbing the ranks demands immense time and effort, a challenge the sect's disciples furiously present to Kim. Yet, a rare genius can shatter these rules, advancing at a speed that defies all logic. The demon-slaying sect prides itself on being a gathering place for the world's most gifted martial artists. However, today, a complete outsider has laid waste to their most promising disciples. In a mere 7 months, Kim has not only become a first-rate warrior, but has also perfected their legendary sword style. The sect master seethes, knowing that reaching such a level typically requires the combined wisdom of generations of masters. His fury deepens as he realizes this single outsider's victory makes their entire sect's tradition look weak. Humiliated and enraged, the sect master gives a single furious command to capture him at all costs. Instantly, the sect's warriors mobilize, swarming from every corner to corner their unexpected new foe. Yunhyun smirks, knowing his plan has plunged the entire sect into chaos in a mere 7 months. Consequently, Kim is imprisoned in his quarters, suspected of being a spy due to his unbelievable progress. Yunhyun, despite knowing no martial arts, was also arrested at the market and is now under suspicion by association. While Yunhyun frets over their predicament, Kim remains blissfully unconcerned, continuing his sword practice. Yunhyun warns him of the severe punishments for spies, which could permanently cripple his martial arts ability. Kim pauses his training, acknowledging the gravity of the situation with a sharp stop of his blade. But instead of fear, he feels an exhilarating breakthrough approaching, confident he can reach the next stage of power. Eunhyun is left speechless, realizing the man he's created is a monster already on the cusp of another evolution. The narrative explains that the stage beyond a first-rate warrior is the legendary martial peak. This is the realm of absolute masters, a level achieved by only 1,000 warriors in the entire nation. The narrative explains that martial peak is considered the absolute pinnacle, the final stage one can reach through training. Yunhyun smirks, realizing Kim's path to becoming the greatest swordsman will be accelerated by a full 40 years. 7 days pass while the two remain confined, awaiting the sect's judgment. Inside, Kim achieves a state of deep meditation, his immense power manifesting as 3 glowing flowers of pure energy. He completes his transformation, exhaling a final stream of concentrated blue chi. Yunhyun stares in shock, recognizing the legendary 3 flowers gathering at the summit, a sign exclusive to peak martial artists. Rising to his feet, Kim announces he has broken through the barrier and now fears no one, not even the sect leader. Eunhyun can only express his awe, admitting Kim's genius far surpasses anything he could have imagined. Kim confidently agrees, realizing his childhood love for martial arts stories stemmed from his own hidden incredible talent. Suddenly, their quiet is broken as guards arrive outside their door, summoning Kim and his comrade. The guards burst in, announcing the sect leader's order to destroy the spy's chi core. Kim smirks, completely unfazed by the dire threat to his power. Yunhyun tries to de-escalate, insisting they are not spies as swords are pointed at him. A guard silences Yunhyun with a punch, claiming they overheard them speaking in code. One of the sect warriors prepares to draw his sword to carry out the punishment. In a blur, Kim strikes first, disarming the warrior with a single precise cut. The man recoils in agony, his hand severed by Kim's impossibly fast blade. Kim stands unfazed, calmly noting that this was his very first sect experience. Outraged, another guard charges forward, swinging his sword down in a furious attack. Kim responds with a whirlwind of slashes, effortlessly disabling the remaining guards in the room. The guards scatter in terror, realizing they've provoked a peak-level master and must warn the sect leader. With the room cleared, Kim asks Yunhyun for his next move, revealing his own plan to train at other sects. Wiping his bloody lip, Yunhyun pledges to follow, suggesting they infiltrate the notorious dragon-fighting stronghold. Kim agrees, telling Yunhyun to go on ahead while he stays behind to handle the demon-slaying sect's leadership. The scene shifts to a vast, treacherous mountain range, signaling their journey to the next destination. Kim waits casually atop a cliff, his sword stained, asking a winded Yunhyun what took him so long. Yunhyun struggles up the cliff face, panting that Kim's new speed is simply impossible to keep up with. He reflects on how the harsh realities of this world have fundamentally changed Kim into a different person. Yunhyun gazes at a distant mountain temple, wistfully wishing they could return to their ordinary lives on Earth. As he continues his arduous climb, his thoughts drift to the idea of regression, longing for a way back home. Resigning himself to their fate, Yunhyun accepts they must now do whatever it takes to survive in this world. The narrative flashes forward, showing how Kim took control of the dragon-fighting stronghold after the demon-slaying sect's betrayal. 2 years later, his campaign of conquest continues as he travels the land, challenging and defeating various sects. In the 3rd year, his dominance is absolute, having successfully destroyed the emblems of every rival faction. Now known as the greatest martial artist alive, he uses his fame to unite the scattered sects into a single martial alliance. 7 years later, Yunhyun reflects on how he and Kim became as close as brothers, their bond transcending the gap in their ages. Kim presents Yunhyun with a unique martial art he created just for him, titled the Severing Mountain Sword. He expresses his hope that by mastering this technique, Yoon-hyun too can reach the legendary martial peak. Eun-hyun's eyes widen as he realizes this is a true first-rate martial art, unlike any lesser technique he's known. However, a flashback reveals a critical flaw, as a younger Yoon-hyun is shown being easily bested in his training. A flashback shows Yoon-hyun's instructor bluntly pointing out his complete lack of skill. Yoon-hyun despairs, realizing the harsh truth that he has absolutely no talent for martial arts. Despite Kim's personal training, it took him a whole year just to reach the level of a third-rate warrior. He eventually accepts his fate, consoling himself with his natural aptitude for medicine instead. Yoon-hyun resigns himself to the fact that everyone has their own unique strengths and weaknesses. The narrative jumps forward 10 years, marking a full decade since their arrival in this world. One day, Yoon-hyun peeks into Kim's room and witnesses something truly unbelievable. He sees an aged Kim meditating, surrounded by an immense aura and 5 glowing orbs of pure energy. Yoon-hyun recognizes this legendary state known as the 5 energies converging to the origin. Kim's eyes blaze with light as he transcends the limits of mortality, achieving a divine level of power. Kim's entire being overflows with a divine golden aura, his transformation reaching its climax. The resulting shockwave of power sends Yoon-hyun flying, knocking him to the ground. From the floor, Yoon-hyun stares in utter disbelief, unable to recognize the man who was once his friend. A confident smirk appears on the figure's face, amused by Yoon-hyun's stunned reaction. The old man is gone, replaced by a youthful, powerful Kim, his body completely remade by a skeletal restructuring.